private sector, colleagues from UNISA Enterprise. Welcome to the second day of Climate Smart Agriculture Training Initiative. This initiative actually is brought to you in association with Department of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries, as well as United Nations Institute for Research and Training, UNITA, as well as the European Union, as well as the Union of Environment Program, or your union. So I'm taking this opportunity to welcome everybody to this program today. Then before we proceed, I'm going to hand over to colleagues from College of Agriculture to do the overview about the college itself. Recognizing our partners as well, Brandhill, who've made this seminar or webinar or training session a possibility. And once more, thank you very much. We're looking forward to a very interactive, fruitful session, just as we did yesterday. This session is going to run for 2 hours. Medium of communication will be English, because we realize that we're from very diverse backgrounds. So if we can just stick to English as a medium of communication today and tomorrow. Tomorrow is our last day. This session is only 2 hours for these 3 days. It started yesterday already. So warm welcome to everybody. Over to you, Prof. Thank you.
Prof. Ndwasa, you can go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Podi. Good morning, colleagues and friends. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to talk to you even just for 5 minutes this morning. Basically, it's just a way of appreciation, a word of appreciation from the college. So I'm delighted to address you and to talk to you this morning as you assist us in shaping up a critical endeavor as an educational institution. Indeed, this is an essential exercise because the quality of our offerings has to be evaluated by the beneficiaries. Agriculture is an essential human activity for food security. And over the centuries, many developments have forced agriculturists to adapt their practices due to climatic, socioeconomic, and political conditions. We are now compelled globally to devise new methods to tackle increasingly tricky climatic conditions. We need approaches that increase agricultural productivity with minor
Sorry, Prof. Ntosa?
Yes.
Do you mind if I can interject? It's Godfrey here. Ne?
Yes.
Would you wanna flight your video?
Oh, you want the video on?
Yes, so that we can get to know you and see you in person across the globe.
Not a problem.
If you can, please, Prof. Ne? Thanks.
Not a problem at all. Can you see me now?
Yes, no, we can. Thank you.
Excellent. So I was saying that we now need approaches that increase agricultural productivity with minor damage to the environment. We also need to adapt because unpredictable circumstances can put farming under terrible stress that we need to prevent by rational interaction with the environment. Some economic activities sometimes do adversely affect the environment. One example is practices that result in deforestation, also pollution in the sea caused by oil spills, etc. So we need to mitigate against.
There's nothing wrong to going and checking, but please, guys, don't make blind purchases.
Sorry.
Another meeting.
I don't know. Mentlantlama Josie, you wanna mute your? Yes. Please let us all mute, colleagues. Apologies, Prof. Carry on.
Guys,
No, that's fine.
Next door, you have comments. That's travel cost.
All
Okay,
right.
the host. Can you mute everybody and then unmute Prof. Ntwasa, please? I know, the new way of doing things has its own challenges, but I think some of the things are within our means and control, colleagues. Over to you, Prof. Carry on. Thanks.
Okay, I'm muted also now. Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear, Prof. Thanks.
So,
Prof, you're muted again.
I was muted by you this time. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. So I was saying that the COVID era has introduced a scenario where automation is critical in agricultural practice. Now, the short learning programs should address adaptation mechanisms under such conditions. While automation may appear to be a threat to jobs, we as an educational sector, we don't see it in that fashion. We recognize that sophisticated automation requires the concurrent development of human skills. Therefore, providing opportunities and access to training is the function of the government. When one opens the gates to automation, one must preemptively prepare the workforce as well. Our role is to facilitate that process and less to initiate it. And in the exercise that you're engaged in, you are about to shape up a process by which we can do this. We hope that the SLP will add value to agricultural practices and improve our outputs as a college. Education is always a two-way exercise, by the way. So those who deliver and those who receive need to be on equal footing. Therefore, the future of our courses depends on feedback from participants. We hope, therefore, that meetings like this will continue after implementing the SLP. This will allow improvements to the courses based on the feedback from beneficiaries. Therefore, I wish you a very fruitful interaction during the workshops, your second day. I wish it all goes very well. Thank you very much for inviting us.
Prof, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time and the brief overview in as far as the new way of doing things and the impact of OIR, but obviously embarking on collaborative initiatives that will ensure that we do things with more speed, efficiency, but obviously taking care of the environment accordingly. And once more, thank you for putting the efforts, the expertise, allocating time from the College of Agriculture as one of the executive heads of the institution as well. From that perspective, from College of Agriculture, great cooperation, much appreciated. As UNISA Enterprise, as European Union, United Nations, Department of Environment, Forest and Fisheries, we really appreciate your team's efforts and your continued support. Have a great day, Feta. We will be running up again from the very same time tomorrow up until 12 o'clock. And so today, the very same proceedings are unfolding. Once more, thank you very much. So, colleagues, I'm going to take this time and this opportunity to hand over to our colleagues from College of Agriculture, University of South Africa, to take us through today's module 2 in as far as climate smart agriculture is concerned. Prof. Mapoli, over to you and the team. Thanks.
No, thank you so much, Godfrey, and good morning to everyone again. So we thought of just to try to assist on some of the questions that we asked yesterday, so that we all in the same level. We thought of it's better today that we just answer those questions or wrap up what happened yesterday just for 5 minutes. And then after that, then we go on with the lesson for today. Is that okay, Godfrey, if we just start by having that?
Yes, that should be fine, Prof. I think we might even be having some of the most of the people who were participating yesterday, I can see they're here as well today. So it will be a good continuation. Over to you. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. Dr. Malobane, are you ready with just the wrap up of the module that you facilitated yesterday?
Oh, okay. Thanks, Prof. Yeah, and good morning to everybody, and thanks, Godfrey, for the welcome. Just to recap of what we talked about yesterday, we touched on climate smart agriculture in crop productions. We touched on principles that you will gain more once you take the module, and how they will literally make farming better space, and the challenges that you might meet. But and we also stated that there are ways of winning in the climate smart agriculture. Ways of mitigations were addressed yesterday, and adaptation strategies also addressed. We also touched on the issues of land degradation, that we need to do something or else we will lose everything we have. There is literature that shows that there's a lot of food that comes from the land.
Dr. Malobane, if I can just interject, you want to flight your camera?
Okay.
So I'm going to appeal to all the speakers today. When you speak, flight your camera, because we are online, just so that you know, we can remain engaged through. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. What's happening? Okay, just
yeah, we see you. We can see you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I can't see myself, so I was shocked.
No, don't worry, doctor. We can see you.
Oh, okay,
so you can carry on. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Godfrey. So as I was saying, that yesterday we touched on many techniques that has to do with climate smart agriculture. We just focused on crop production. So one of the ideas that we thought we should do today is to try to give some of the colleagues that were there yesterday just a few minutes to ask questions if they seek clarity on what we presented yesterday, so that we can answer before we move to the next session. So Godfrey, with your allowance, can I please take a few questions so that we can answer some of the burning questions from yesterday? Thanks.
No, that should be fine, Dr. Malobane. I take it that the questions were consolidated and then sent through. But what we can do is, in the interest of time, let us do this. Then I'm going to suggest that we get into the business of the day. We should have enough time maybe to revert to 3-5 of those questions before we start the Q&A session today, so that we do not inconvenience you as well. What we'll do is we'll go back and then reshare those questions. Then you can have a look at them as the proceedings unfold, if that's fine with you, Dr. Malobane.
No, it's okay.
And we can accommodate them at the end of the session. So yeah, then it's fine. You can take a break for now and revert back onto your desktop to look at them. Prof. Mapoli, I think then let us give an overview of today's expectations in as far as the module is concerned. So I'll hand over to you. Then we will proceed with the Q&A session immediately after the delivery. Thank you. Over to you, Prof.
Okay, thank you, Godfrey. Maybe I should just first share my slides for yesterday, just to, do we have any new people, Godfrey, today? Or all the people that are here were there yesterday? Should we just continue with the new module for today? Or should I give the module, the whole course overview?
I would suggest that you give the whole course overview, Prof, because yes, there's new people as well today. Thanks.
Okay, so Dr. Malobane, please just share my slides.
Yeah.
That phone is helping. Good morning, also Ivy. I went out just for a few minutes.
Okay, thank you, Brandhill, for that. At least if we can always just mute, that will be good. Malobane, if you can just make it as a slide presentation for me. And if you can immediately go to slide number 2. Just to give everyone an overview of what we have done yesterday, and we actually familiarize everyone on exactly why are we here today, or why are we here these 3 days. I just give a summary or an overview of how the SRP is going to be and what it's supposed to cater. So the short learning program that we are here for today, which is the Climate Smart Agriculture, it's a new thing that it's initiated in collaboration with the United Nations for training and research, and also with the Department of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries, and UNISA. Within UNISA, there's UNISA Enterprise, and then there's also College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences. So what we did, we have put together this SRP, and then we hope and aim to help that it will guide the action to transform the agri-food system towards the green and climate resilient practices. And this is just in line with what Prof. Ntwasa has just indicated on his introduction in terms of the challenges that we are experiencing as an agriculturalist in Africa or in South Africa or in the world in terms of the global changes. So that is why you find it out when we said climate smart agriculture, it might be the way forward that one should think about to be able to answer these questions that would help us to improve the situations that we are in now. The reason why we're doing that, we want to also agree with some of the SDG goals that it actually motivate us to increase agriculture productivity, and also I just want to take that away. And also and our income for the farmers, and also adapting and building the resilient to climate change, and reducing and removing the greenhouse gas emission. You know a lot today. Actually, you're going to talk about livestock. You're gonna see how our livestock making this world that we are in actually not be a conducive environment based on what is happening. And you want to produce animals that are less gas emissions. And that is one of the things that we as an agriculturalist, we want to look at it. Then the other thing also, we are also supporting the FAO strategic frameworks that it tells us to come up with better production, better nutrition, better environment, and better life for all. And by doing so, this help us to be, sorry, I was told to do my video and I did not do that. I apologize. Can you be able to see me? Okay. So by doing so, it helps us to really have a better world and be able to produce well without any challenges. And this actually will then affect our local socioeconomics, environment, and our climate change factors. So this SRP is actually done or designed with the mitigation and adaptation strategies for both under the animal and plant production. And with this, we are also adding the technology such as remote sensing tools that it helps you to take the advantage or to tap into those new technologies, and then be able to produce better and able to know what are the challenges in your farms before any other starting. Can I have the next slide? Thank you. So this SRP, it's designed to actually accommodate 3 modules. And these modules, as I told you just previously, that it includes the introduction to climate smart for crop production, and also introduction to climate smart livestock production, and also the remote sensing, which is then the technology modules that we want you to be aware of all the technologies that are around. This module, if you know, in education, we worked about the credits, because you have to learn something that is at NQ level that will fit into a credit and become a qualification. So this SRP is going to be on NQF level 5. That is our actually entrance level of the any qualification or formal qualification at the university. So if you can take it as easy way, this is like your first year modules kind of. So this SLP is at the level of the first year of the university. And then it actually has about all in all 36 credits, and you're gonna need for each module about 120 notion study hours, and in total you're gonna need about 360 notion hours for studying this course. This course, we design it in a way that it should be suitable for all the government department, either it's at a national, at a provisional, or at a local also sector or local investment, or in the agricultural sector, whether it's a corporate or it's an industry, economic, labor, environment departments, extension worker, those who normally goes and working towards with the farmers and always assisting the farmers in terms of bettering their own productions. And also it caters the farmer themselves, because the farmer are the ones supposed to understand this technology better, and also the profession association. This includes all other associations that deal with agriculture, and also the non-government organization, NGOs, the academics also, because we thought academics, they don't have this qualification as in formal qualification around many institutions in South Africa. So we're hoping that it would also cater them, and also the business representative who would want to actually tap into new technologies. So this is just an overview of the whole course. And yesterday, as Dr. Malibane has indicated, you already gone through the introduction to climate smart crop production. And that gives you an idea on, if you look at the land, if you look at the soil, if you look at the crops, what more can we do there? So today we are going to look at the livestock production itself. How do we then factor the climate smart agriculture in livestock production in order for us to be able to improve our livestock production? So I'm going to give it to Dr. Nesengani to just give us the presentation for the module for today, so that you have an overview of the module and understanding of this module. Thank you so much, Godfrey.
Once more, thank you very much for the brief overview, Prof. Mapoli. In as far as the module outline is concerned, and the positive impact it will have in as far as, the skills development is concerned. But not only that, the feasibility of ensuring sustainable production methods. So we really appreciate that. Without further ado, then I'm going to hand over to Prof to take us through module 2 for today. And then I just want to remind participants and colleagues and associates and valued partners accordingly to say, we will share the presentation slides after tomorrow's session in the afternoon South African time. So as the proceedings unfold, kindly share your contact details, and then if there is the possibilities of collaborations and partnerships, as already alluded from yesterday's intersections, to say this is a networking opportunity as well for participants, members, across the I will say the globe, because this goes beyond the South African borders. So let's take advantage of that. Over to you, Prof, and the team. Thank you.
can go ahead.
I see it says the host disabled the participant screen sharing. Hello?
Sorry, Prof. Nasingani, you want to share your slides?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Mr. Mulubi, can we enable Prof to share accordingly?
Thank you.
Hello, who should I give co-hosting rights? Remind me again.
It's Lucky Nesengani.
I can't find the name. Oh, there it is.
Good morning, everyone. I hope my slides are visible. Can someone please shout and confirm that?
Yes, it is visible and it's on a presentations mode, so you can go ahead. We can even hear you clearly.
Okay, thank you for that. And thank you, Prof, for the brief introduction and also the catch-up of what happened yesterday. I hope everyone had their coffee, because they say it's what we need to get us going through the day. So today I'll be taking us through the introduction to climate smart livestock production, which I'll take you through the purpose of the course, the outcome, as well as the lesson and the conclusion. The figure on the right, it shows the South Africa's greenhouse gas emission by sector. It shows that I would like to apologize for the sound that you will keep hearing. I'm not staying far from the airport, so sometimes there will be this loud noise as the planes passing by. As I was saying about the figure that shows South Africa's greenhouse gas emission by sector, it shows different sectors on how they contribute to the greenhouse gas emission in different magnitude. And you can see that agriculture is no exception in those sectors. Hence the talk of today, as Prof was saying in the introduction, that we need to find ways to minimize our footprint into the greenhouse gas emission. So when we're talking about the impact of climate change on livestock, what exactly are we talking about? We're talking about the increase of temperatures, which impact on water consumption or result in increase in water consumption by 2 to 3 times. And it also impact on the forage, which decreases the nutrient availability. And not alone, it also impact on the production, where you find in the cases of high producing dairy cows tend to decrease in milk production, which some of the part will go into detail in the coming slides. Also impact on the reproduction as well as the health that may induce high mortality in grazing cattle. High temperatures together with the precipitation variation also lead to the increases or incidences of diseases, where you find the increase of pathogens and parasites, as well as also the temperature as they increases, they also impact on the forage by affecting the composition of pasture, where you find the shift of seasonal pattern, changing optional growth rate. I think given the introduction that I just, or the background, it gives us or drives us to the purpose of the model. Why do we have to have this model, or the purpose of this model? It's to facilitate or capacitate the participant or the student in this case to be able to differentiate climate smart livestock techniques and also to understand the importance of livestock production for food security. I don't know if someone can help me to admit the people who are entering, because sometimes it interferes with my presentation. Thank you for that. And also to understand the link between the climate change and the livestock production. Also to conceptualize on the ways of mitigating climate change during livestock production. Also to capacitate the participants and the also in the ways of managing the livestock waste management in livestock, and also generating clean energy. So in a nutshell, the purpose of the course is to capacitate, as I was saying, the students to in the climate change.
Someone has been
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, we can still hear you, bro.
Okay, I don't know what happens. Sometimes I get muted. Maybe it's just the technical error issues. So, yeah, as I was highlighting on the purpose of the course, that is to basically to capacitate participants on the climate change impact on livestock, on the production side, as well as on the adaptation by understanding the morphological, the behavioral, as well as the molecular level. Upon the completion of this study, or rather what will be the expected outcomes after the completion of this model, it will be expected that the candidate must be able to explain in depth the livestock production sector and its role in food security. When you're talking about livestock production, what is its role or impact in food security, and also understand the effect of livestock production on the climate change, as well as be able to conceptualize the climate smart livestock production, and also importantly, how to use the available resources such as the animal breeding and to manipulate rumen. I will also highlight on the importance of why do we have to manipulate rumen. Manipulation is also highlighted, that the importance of it, I will explain it in the coming slide also. And yeah, also the effect of climate change, to understand the climate change on the water and adapting to changing water security, as well as the concept when we're talking about footprint, water footprint, what is it that we're talking about, especially in the face of livestock production, and also the proper management on the manure management and use. I think some of the things you might find them more relatable to what Dr. Malomane has presented yesterday, especially when it comes to warning systems, and in this case, in the use of climate smart livestock. Most of the technique might be more relatable to what we will discuss here, and that's how it always works together. In terms of the lessons, we'll go in depth explaining the course will go in depth explaining the importance of livestock production in food security, as I've already highlighted, and also be able to differentiate the different livestock classes when we're talking about the livestock, and also highlight on the stocking rate and the animal performance. Some of the major factors affecting sustainable climate smart livestock production will also be highlighted. I think in the coming slide, I'll also give you a brief of what you should be expecting in the model. The difference between climate and weather, one should be able to differentiate that, because knowing that when we're talking about climate, we're talking about the measuring of the atmospheric condition over a long period of a time on a specific region. But when you're talking about weather, we will be referring to an atmospheric condition over a short period of time in a specific area. So this course will capacitate the students to understand and those core concepts into details, and also the impact of climate changes on livestock production system, as well as the impact of livestock production on climate changes. Normally, I've encountered people asking questions such as like, you talk about the greenhouse, but it's very difficult to understand why an animal or livestock to say can have an impact in greenhouse. So I just thought that we need this course will also help understand that, because most of the colleagues or friends from a different stream find it surprising that how an animal can contribute in the production of gases. So this figure actually depicts on the role of livestock on the production of or emission of greenhouse gases such as the methane, because the livestock consumes grasses from the grasses that contains carbon from the soil. And when they consume the grasses, they undergo digestion with the aid of the gut microbiome, where the carbon get converted into the methane in this, and the methane get excreted in the form of burping or farting, where this methane get trapped in the atmosphere and contribute to the climate change. And eventually this methane, it breaks down into carbon dioxide, then get reabsorbed by the pasture. So this is the cycle actually shows the role of livestock on the climate change or the greenhouse gas emission. We'll also touch into details the concept of climate smart in livestock production, specifically looking also on the 3 pillars of climate smart livestock. I'm sure, or maybe hoping that Dr. Malubane have touched this. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend yesterday's lecture. He might have emphasized on these 3 pillars, which talks about the food security. According to FAO, they're talking about the 3 pillars include the food security, adaptation, and the mitigation. Like the Prof was saying in the introduction earlier, that the aim is to be able to produce an ideal animal that can be able to withstand these challenges while producing efficiently and producing less greenhouse gases, but producing more product that we need to consume. So that 3 pillars will also be dealt with in depth. And also speaking of that ideal animal, we'll be emphasizing also on the role of animal breeding as well as the rumen manipulation. As you have realized when we talked about the role of livestock in greenhouse gas emission, we're talking about gases that are released through digestion of feeds. So with the ideal, it will be to select animals that will produce or less or not produce at all the methane. Or I know some of the colleagues that are working on projects of identifying animals that have less methane production in the aim of reducing livestock footprint into carbon greenhouse gas emission. And also be dwelling into the pests and diseases, the influence of climate change on pests and diseases in livestock production, as well as the socio-economic factors influencing the prevalence of pests and diseases. So as I had said that I will also explain the importance of how the climate change impact on the livestock production. It impacts on the growth by reducing body weight, body condition scoring, and as well as decrease feed intake. And it also impacts on milk production by decreasing the milk quality, the lactose, milk protein, milk fat. In the reproduction side, the climate change impact and the decrease of infertilization, the conception rates, as well as the estrus expression. In terms of milk production, it leads to the decrease in pre-slaughter weight, the hot carcass weight, the fat score, but increase in the meat pH, as well as the increase in heat shock proteins. Also, during the phase of climate change, there is a prevalence or the increase in incidences of some of the diseases, such as the vector-borne diseases, that some of the diseases were used to be in low abundance. But in the face of climate change, you might find that we realize or come across an increase in incidences of such diseases. Also, as a key to reduce the footprint of the livestock in greenhouse gas emission, the cost will also dwell into the feed management, the quantity and the quality of climate smart livestock feeds, as well as looking at the nutrients and supplements in livestock production, and effectively using the rotational grazing to allow field rest. When you're talking about the importance of water security, we'll be looking at factors that involve the accessibility, availability, stability, as well as quality, that all contribute to the importance of water security, and on ways how to enhance efficiency of water use in livestock production. As that actually brings me in the same concept of the next slide, that where we realize that in the face of high increase in temperatures, this is accompanied with incidences of heat stress in cattle and or livestock, so to say, which also leads to the increase in ambient air temperature, increase in temperature, humidity, that impact negatively in the behavior, as well as the health and welfare, well-being, and the productivity of animal, as I explained in the previous slide, how it impacts on the productivity. And that drives us to the importance of why do we need to find ways to adapt or to produce an animal that can adapt and find ways to mitigate these challenges through the use of some of the available tools that such as the genetics, the nutrition, and management. When you're talking about genetics, is what I was saying about selecting animals or having an ideal animal that will be well adapted to the climate change factors impact, and also be able to produce efficiently as a goal. But it's still a work in process, but that will be also be discussed in detail in the course, and also the effective management practice. In the same concept, the manure management is also of importance, because the manure management, how to effectively managing manure to reduce greenhouse gas emission, because they have been reported to play a role in the production of methane and the other greenhouse gases and carbon dioxide, so to say. So this course will also detail intensively on that, and also on the effective ways to store and apply manure under climate smart livestock, and also as the usage of the warning system as an adapting strategy in climate smart livestock, and the clean energy in livestock slaughterhouse and processing. So in a nutshell, or in a conclusion, we are aware in taking into the concept of what have been discussed earlier on, and even after listening to what Prof was saying in the introduction, it also correlates with what we're saying here, that the climate change basically affects most of the critical factors of our livestock production, such as the water availability, as I have also emphasized earlier on, that we've seen that during high temperatures, the water consumption actually doubles or increases by 3 times. and it also impacts on the animal production and reproduction as well as health. Upon completion of this model, the candidate, or in this case, our prestigious ambassadors, which will be representing us on how well we're trained, or rather call them ambassadors, will be able to do the following. Will be able to identify climate smart livestock practice in livestock production, collect, analyze, organize, and critically evaluate information, plan and implement control activities or tasks to implement climate smart livestock, and be able to explain in depth the nature of application of climate smart livestock, and able to communicate the awareness, as there will be, as I've already mentioned, that there will be our prestigious ambassadors. So we'll be able to represent out there and be able to communicate awareness and be able to analyze the climate smart livestock production techniques. I would like to thank you with that. Hello.
Thank you, Doc.
Okay.
I think it's going to go back to Godfrey. Yeah.
Yes. No, I must say thank you very much, for the presentation. It is 10 minutes to 10. So I think we're going to have more than enough time for Q&As, questions and answers. But maybe before we proceed into that, Prof. Mapoli, just a wrap up of the presentation by Prof. Nesengani, and then we will move into the questions and answers for the day. So members from across, the table, the visual table, can start preparing questions from their side. We shall be taking questions accordingly. Over to you, Prof. Mapoli, for a wrap up.
Thank you so much, Godfrey. So everyone, good morning again. So if you have listened properly, what Dr. Nesengani was actually unpacking for us in terms of the livestock production and the impact of the climate change, that gives you an idea that the agriculture sector itself, it's already as a whole has been actually impacted, and it would keep on being impacted if we don't do anything. And that is why we're coming up with a ways on how do we prevent these challenges. If you look at what has been said yesterday and you try to relate it with what has been said today, both ways in how do we keep or to have a sustainable production, both in the crop, both in the livestock, in this world that is changing, in this climate that is changing every time. How do we keep that? And I think those are the things that farmers every day, as they wake up, they ask themselves for it. Would in this season, would I produce enough to be able to sustain my industry or my business? Will I be able to produce and still have a good profit? And that is why this short learning program, it becomes much more relevant for us to be able to engage and be able to talk about it. If we look at the livestock production, I mean, as Dr. Nesengani was saying, a lot of people say, why would we worry about what the animals are producing? If you read some of the documentaries and other articles, researchers or academics at some point, they said it will be good to go green and then we become vegetarian and we don't have to have a lot of animals. Because why? It would help us to actually have a clean environment if we do so, if we don't have a lot of animals. But is it what we want? Because we still need our protein. I mean, I myself, I still need a lot of meat. So that is what we need to think about it without compromising what we like, what we want as consumers. How do we sustain that and be able to go forward and be able to have a profitable production? So issues of water footprint, it's a big issue. Water security, like around Africa or South Africa. I mean, you would know that in the past few years we had a drought, and that led us to a lot of provinces with lacking water. And at the end of the day, farmers has to be able to maintain their animals and be able to feed them and produce and be able to sell the meat, you know, for all the consumers. But in that environment, that makes it so difficult. So that is why climate change, it becomes a big issue when it comes to water availability. And the animals, if you think about it, they consume a lot of water. But the question is, how do we produce livestock that are water efficient? How do we produce livestock that are food efficient? And those are the things that when you look at this course, it will be unpacking that kind of an information, so that as a farmer, you understand and you can learn better. And also, if you think about it, how you could produce in times when it's drought. So that means you're going to need to have a breeding selection of your animals. Dr. Nesengani, I've touched about, you need to think about how you're going to breed your animals to be able to produce what is conducive or what is adapted to the environment that you're living at. And that is what this course in terms of the livestock, it will bring you that kind of information. And how do we reduce this gas, the methane production? I mean, if you think about it, in Africa or in South Africa also, or in Africa as a whole, there is a lot of breed differences, cattle breeds, sheep breeds, goat breeds. There's now wildlife, you know, that we already now are tapping into wildlife breeding selection. So if you look at those breeds, some of the breeds were imported. They are not from Africa, they're not from South Africa. So that means they're not really suitable for the environment of South Africa. When they come here, that is why the climate change, it becomes an issue, because then they become disease susceptibility. And those breeds, you find out that it's difficult for them to be able to produce better in this environment. But if you think about it, if we come back to Africa and we think about our own indigenous cattle that we have, or our own indigenous animals that we have, you think, or if you were to use them to be able to produce better, and maybe either you cross it with the other exotic breeds that you bring into to Africa. If you think about that, I should tell you, the study that Dr. Nesengani was saying, the new research that is coming out, we find out that Anguni cattle, they actually release less methane compared to other breeds. And those are the things that we want to tell you, that sometimes you run away from your own indigenous because, okay, they're not producing at a bigger scale as how I want. But as a farmer, you need to also think, and how do you now produce better and breed better, even for Hereford, even for Angus, even for all other breeds? How do you breed better for those animals to be able to adapt within the environment that you have? And those are the biggest issues. So the climate smart technologies, it comes in a way that how do we maintain the reproduction of these animals to be able to produce better at this climate? How do we maintain the production rate in terms of growth rate, be able to have animals that are not stressed? He talked about heat stress. And if you look at issues of heat stress, it's one of the biggest challenge in all farming area. Either it's in a small stock, it's in cattle. That is what normally the animals change behavior. The animal lose productivity because of where they are, the heat. So those are the things that as farmers, we need to have the knowledge. So this course is going to give you that background knowledge for you to be able to understand, or how do we then deal with these challenges? And also, if you think about it, you have animals in your farms that releasing or that producing all those manures. What are we doing with those manures? Because those manures are the other things that there is so much gas that has been released from the feed of the animals that the animal has digested. So how do we deal with that? And one of the good things that's coming out of it, why don't we use those manure for the good cause? In one village, in one area, why don't we have areas where we all packed up and say, we're going to produce the bioenergy, or what we call it now, the green energy. So think about all these things as how do we make our agricultural production viable and relevant in this time of the climate change, whether the environment is not suiting as what we were before. How do we also avoid all these diseases? Because you look at the issues now, there's a lot of outbreak. I mean, you look at the COVID comes in. We were only concentrating on human about COVID, but if you now know and you've read on the studies, it also affects the animals. And how do we deal with that issue? There's also other pests or parasites, diseases that actually comes handy and that actually affect our production. How do we then now deal with that issue? So the use of climate smart agriculture technology or practices is what actually we need to be able to produce that. So I'll leave it to that, Godfrey, and then we can then start to take questions.
Prof. Mapoli, I'm going to say again, heartfelt appreciation for the deliberation and then the overview in as far as climate smart agriculture is concerned, and for bringing it more closer to life, you know, for it to be easy and understandable. But I think before we proceed with the questions, maybe if I can open the floor formally for questions. Recalling from yesterday's session, there was a question to say, how do we make this practical through various structures that can be formed across various provinces and obviously across our borders? And then I think our partners and colleagues from Department of Environment, Forest and Fishery can guide that, you know, to in as far as, you know, the you know, practicalization of this is concerned. I mean, there are existing, you know, organizations out there. Some of them, you know, have been popping up on the chat box. But you know, from the government perspective, how is the whole, you know, what are the plans in place, or what's the vision in as far as making sure that this becomes, you know, progressively realized? So as to become more implementable, you know. So maybe, I'm not too sure if Dr. Janitha from DEEF is available to assist us and make inputs in as far as that's concerned. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Janitha. Oh, okay. It looks like she's not with us. So without further ado, colleagues, it's 1 minute past 10. So we've got almost an hour to go. So the floor is open for questions. Can we carry on with questions? Okay. Ipileng, over to you, man. I will be using first names, so please, it's not out of disrespect. Ipileng, over to you. Ipileng, if you're talking, you want to unmute yourself. Ipileng, you can pose your question.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you are. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, sir. And let me take this opportunity to greet you all and appreciate such a beautiful initiative. I started engaging from yesterday, and believe you me, I'm so happy that I'm learning a lot. I'm a cattle farmer from Brett in the Northwest Province, and actually, I don't have a question. It's just a suggestion from what the previous speaker has been sharing. because due to COVID-19, as farmers, she's right that most of us, we concentrated on the COVID and people and our animals. There was a less of attention given to our animals. So what I've realized, I just want to suggest that can we have more awareness on such things? I can see the way the youth is so vibrant in our province in the Northwest and both in Gauteng, because that's where I normally do supply my animals. So youth, they are more their concentration is more on just producing, and they just forget the part of research and so forth and forth. There'll be, like, for an example, the Nguni cattle producing less meat. You'll find that in some rural area, you'll find that they are young people who are producing good number of cattle, but it becomes a problem if you are targeting meat on your animals, and then it's as if you are not playing enough to the game. You just want to, you are using the animals that are not producing more meat, and they're not going to be more profitable. So I don't know, with such entities like UNISA, with awareness like this, youth can become aware of such things and know that exactly on the supply chain which breed can adopt on certain areas. And we can use role models like those young or female farmers or anybody who can come and be an inspiration, because I've realized that now that the youth, after this COVID-19, they've just realized their worth. They started engaging on agricultural summits and coming for the farm visits to see where can they invest. So we don't need to waste money on things that cannot, but at the same time, we do need to conserve our indigenous animals. Thank you so much.
Once more, thank you very much for your contribution, Ipileng. We're glad that you deriving value out of these interactions. So without further ado, we'll be taking Nonhlanhla. So as per the initial request, if you can please from your side switch on your videos, so that online interaction sometimes we just want to capture attention as much as we can and focus. So immediately thereafter, I'll be handing over to Prof. Antwe to take us through the difference between food sovereignty and food security. Nonhlanhla, over to you.
Thank you, Godfrey, for giving me this opportunity again. In terms of how at an academic level versus the grounded approach. Yes, there'll be theories, research is done, and a lot is being discovered, but the technologies would be more applicable on the ground where all these challenges and complexities are arising. So is there a way to make this course more practical and be on the ground to even check if these theories are applicable? Because climate change is just overwhelming. And by the time we complete the course, those theories and whatever one has learned or accumulated is no longer applicable to the challenges and the complexities on the ground. So my recommendation, I'm not sure if the profs will go with this, is to make this course as practical as possible, because that's where you would be beginning to test all these theories and these technologies and feedback onto these research and all these causes, and all these causes that are beginning to take place given by UNISA and so on. Because if I refer to what the prof from the College of Agriculture, highlighted, was that there needs to be workforce on the ground to do all these things, to test all of these things. Thank you.
Prof. Mapoli, you want to talk to Ms. Mahlangu's deliberation in as far as the practicality and application of the course itself is concerned. Thanks. Over to you, Prof.
I'd like us I would like also to just go back a bit before I respond to Nonhlanhla. If I can just go back to Belling, I can't remember the name. When she was giving her remarks, although it was more of recommendation, I think she raised a very good point in terms of awareness. How good are we doing that? And I think this is one of the things that as the higher education institution, we need to team up with the government department and make sure these awareness are done in order to educate the farmers on exactly what are the challenges that they are experiencing in the ground. Because yes, sometimes we tend to have more of the theory and just explain, but we never at least go down. And in terms of also breed selection and based on where they are and what is the easier farming for them in that area. And I think those is that is the job that we as the higher education and the government department needs to actually take much of those responsibility. And I've been actually been impressed with how the extension officers from the government has been grown to be trained a lot in terms of these short learning programs, so that they also equipped when they go back to the farmers. Now, you know, previously you wouldn't find a youngster in South Africa doing farming, but now there is that interest. And I think that is one of the things that we should embrace and start to teach going forward, for them to be able to produce and become better entrepreneurs or better business leaders. So I think that is one of the good things that we need to do. And I think because we have relationship with this government's department, we will actually enforce that immediately after we finish this workshop, or as we are going to give this as a short learning program, what exactly can we do to be able to also improve the farmers around South Africa and also in the whole continent. When we come back to the practicality of this short learning course, I can tell you now with no doubts that our idea is to increase more in terms of practicality rather than more of theory. And we're still trying to find the ways on, and this will also be determined based on the enrollment, the students who will enroll and where they are and how we can be able to assist. If you remember yesterday, I said one of the things that we are considering for the people that are outside South Africa is to have a relationship with countries all over and be able to place them in farming industry or in the industry. And the good thing is we have a lot of organization here that actually represent the industry, that they can assist us in terms of placing them to be able to do the practical. Why do we want to make this much more practical? We realize that it's not a matter of we as academics, we do research and our research is pegged on the, as articles in the science community. That research needs to go down and be practiced and be adopted. And those are the main things that we want to do as academics, to be able to have the research that is adopted. So this course specifically, what we're doing is part of the research. What of the things that we're going to be sharing with you? You may have heard the two speakers who have now talked. As they talked, they emphasize more of the research that has been done. So what they will be doing is to take what they've learned into that research and be able to transfer it down to the farmers. And in farmers that would be around South Africa, we're going to make it a point that where you are in your province, we're going to then arrange to be able to have a few weeks where we come in there. If you look, you remember on my introduction, I've mentioned that this course, for you to be able to finish this whole course, you need about 360 hours. And if you break those hours down to be able to study, it includes actually your other hours that you need to put it into practical. So we are going to go in all the provinces, and those who are in Gauteng, they would have that exposure of coming where we are and be able to actually also take them through of what we'll be doing. So there will be a lot of the groundwork that will be done. It's not only the theory part. So what Prof. Ndwasa was emphasizing in terms of testing ground, that's what we will do. We want, they are already organization that actually own good technologies that you would hear tomorrow in terms of remote sensing. And we were also debating the other day as we're actually developing this course, or how, I mean, people think that most of the farmer may not be aware of the technology, the devices, the current device technologies that can allows you to be able to, where you are, just, you know, collect the data using your device. Like I can tell you today that when you have animal that shows the symptoms of heat stress, you can take actually a photo with the nowadays camera or phones, and then that photo, when you send it, they can be able to look at the wavelengths and tell you, okay, this is what is happening in the area where you are. So in terms of also, in terms of the technology like drones and other technology, how you can actually, people, they always think these things are so expensive, but if you actually get someone who explained to you, these are affordable, or this is doable. Or I always said, sometimes it's about the farmer working together in that area where they don't need to buy 10 drones, you know, there is where farmers work together and say, for this area, we need to have like a drone to be able to collect our data, or we can have somebody with a good app or a good phone that it can actually carry the app and then take the coordinates of that area and then look at what is happening now and send it to a person like Dr. Malovane, who can actually look at the area and tell you, oh, this is what is happening, this is what, and some data that we can analyze. So there is so much in the ground that it's going to be offered, that's going to be also shown. At the end of the day, we have only 360 hours that we'll be working on. So there is that also limited of time, but we will try to satisfy your needs. And there will be also follow-up, you know, visits after you take the short learning programs in the provinces, to just be able to see, is it what we are offering, it also making any impact, you know, through the industry. So that would also check as time goes. I think I've answered both the two speakers at the same time. Thank you, Godfrey.
Thank you very much, Prof. Maybe just a quick follow-up question from my side. As you know, colleagues, partners, participants, partners across the visual table are still putting together questions. From a small-scale application of your research findings and your team's research findings, would you have maybe a practical site as College of Agriculture where you can apply that before you roll it out to industry? Would it be something that you're looking at, maybe, like where you can have an experiment farm or something of that nature? Just as a follow-up question to that, while colleagues are still, you know, putting their questions together. Thanks.
So the college or the university, it is actually securing a farm, a land that in the next 2 months, we're hoping to have already concluded everything and starting to, especially in terms of crops, starting to erect some of the buildings, and then also having some animals. So we're hoping that we would have an area where we can say to those students, come in and have a look of other research that we have done and showing into practice of what we're doing. Alternatively, we have a good collaboration with the research institutions such as ARC. And already if you look at ARC, when we talk about crop production, agriculture, climate smart agriculture, there is already those research that's happening that we can take actually our students there to be able to have a look in practical point. And at ARC, when we talk about the methane gases, how we see different breeds actually shows which breeds will do well. And as I said, I always say to the farmer, you need to understand your area so that your breed will do well. Because if you don't understand your area, you may want to farm with cattle, but you find out that the area that you're farming is just not as good. And I remember the first speaker was who gave the comment. She talked about producing an animal that does not have a lot of meat, like it's not a bigger frame cattle, because of the area of where you are. Sometimes it's a breed issue. I mean, when we talk about Nguni, which is our indigenous breed ourselves, it's a breed issue that Nguni itself is a small body frame. But if you take Nguni and take it to the feedlot, it does grow like any other breeds. And if you actually go further and try to do selection for Nguni, you can end up with a very good selection line or head in your farm that you can be able to compete at the market. Because the challenge is, yes, with the farmers that are farming with the indigenous breeds is, can they compete commercially or at the market? Yes, they can compete if the breeding strategies, or they have a proper breeding plans to be able to produce cattle or heads that are at a good frame that goes better to the market. And also there's a lot of collaboration research that we would show you as we go into this course, where areas where breeds of animals, they are not producible or they're not growing to the good frame as you would want to pose it to the market. We have projects that are funded by government and the research institutions like ARC, where they look at how farmers partners together with the commercial power farmer, a normal smallholder farmer, partnering with the commercial farmer in a way that, okay, you raise your animal at a certain point or level or month, and then from there it goes to a feedlot or to the better grazing area, where they would make sure that your animal is fed well, not specifically a feedlot, but in a normal grazing area, but better area, and then find out that you still produce a good animal out of that. So there will be practical part that we will negotiate with our stakeholders or with our collaborators. But if our farm, it comes to be effective as early as how we are hoping, you will be lucky to be able to work within our farm and then be able to have a proper practice in terms of this SLP. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think this brings it, to practicability as well. We're looking forward to tomorrow as well, especially taking into consideration that, we'll be talking to technology as well within the climate smart agriculture. So I'm not seeing any hands being raised. So I'm going to open again the opportunity for questions in the next 5 minutes for everybody to come on board and pose their questions. So
Godfrey?
Yes, Prof. Andri, I think I'm going to hand over to you to take us through the difference between, food sovereignty and food security. Over to you, Prof. Andri.
Yeah, thank you very much, Godfrey. Good morning, participants and colleagues. I think maybe before I go to the food security and the food sovereignty, I would like to also contribute to the issue of the technology sitting on the shelves. The person, the lady who asked that question is excellent. I agree with her 100%. And it's common in most developing countries. And some of them, the reasons that they are sitting on the shelves may be due to structural situations. For instance, when you go to the United States, there are some states in the US where agricultural extension, which normally takes from the government to the farmers for implementation, and also from the farmers back to government. You find the extension sitting in the university. When you go to Ohio State, it's like that. Why? Because they view the university as center of technology. So all the time, the farmers will be abreast of new technologies, or even the research that they are doing, some trials on their farms, and that builds their confidence. And also, it also puts some sort of a consciousness on the university side to say, hey, we must be abreast of technology. We should come up with new things, because in order to maintain the confidence that the farmers will have in us, we have to work harder. That helps a lot. When I was in Northwest University, we tried to adapt that model and study that model and see if we can implement it in a local scene, but we abandoned it at a certain point because of financial constraints. But even in South Africa, for instance, if you look at the past, at the University of Pretoria, where I studied in the 90s, on the 80s, 70s, and 90s, early 90s, the Department of Agriculture was linked with the universities. They depended on the universities for a lot of things. When you go to Western Cape, it is still there. Not the same as the past, but still they are linked to the universities. Even the colleges, Essenberg, you go, the grape farmers, they are linked with them. They do research and provide them with new technology, the ones that, even the ones that they are going to grow, new cultivars that they are going to grow, they are researching into that. So you see after some period, there are that new ones that have come from the colleges. So the structure is critical in that sense. If the government can promote that, then it can be helpful. And also the issue of the Nguni, I think that one is an accepted fact. I was a member of the technical committee in the Nguni project in Northwest. The farmer wants to make profit, so he wants a bigger animal, a bigger frame animal, so that he can sell and make money. But the Nguni has got a lot of advantages that the bigger ones also do not have. So you have to look at the economics of it. It may not have the price, but if the government has a program, for instance, the main motivation for bringing the Nguni was to reintroduce the indigenous breeds. But the government had arrangement with the Mercedes-Benz who were interested in the scheme of the Nguni. So in that instance, in that situation, the government should be able to get better price for the farmers so that they will be motivated to contribute to continue to produce it. But in terms of the CSA, from the food sovereignty approach, it has to be democratic. People have to decide what they want to produce. But the CSA, the way we have structured it, if you look at yesterday's presentation and today's presentation, it presents options so that people can, based on that, people can make their decisions to go into the type that suits them. It will be, for instance, they're talking about the breeds today. So they will look into the breeds and say, okay, this breed contributes more in terms of meeting the atmosphere, but this one contributes less. But it's not what you go for. You have to apply your mind and see the one that you would like to go into. And when you do the economics of the animals, in terms of financial benefits and the likes, if you go for a bigger frame animal, maybe in terms of the stocking rate, you may not have a bigger land. So how many can you keep? And what will be the sustainability there? Because they also eat a lot. And then when you go for smaller animals, maybe the conditions there, the climatic conditions, maybe it's favorable there. So you have to take a lot of things into consideration. There was a study by one of our students from Ochestru. In the end, there wasn't much difference by keeping the smaller frames and then the bigger frames because of the stocking rate. Because if you keep the bigger ones, how many can you keep? And what are the mortalities, feed consumption, the expenditure for each of them, maybe varying. So when you kept all of them, we found out that there wasn't much difference. So in the end, he recommended for the medium frame types. But it was clear that in terms of the income, all things being equal, was from the bigger animals. So that is my take on that one. In terms of the food security and the food sovereignty, I think my colleagues explained it very well. Yesterday, I wanted to make an input, but I was muted permanently by mistake. What I want to add is that in terms of food security, all member countries of the United Nations to the present is a constitutional right that all citizens of every country must be food secure. Yeah. So as a result of that, every government has two aspects of the food security. We have the national food security. That is, the government must ensure that there's adequate and nutritious food available in the country at all times to meet the food needs of the people. That's national. So the government has to have programs to address that. That's why the government goes into production of grains, make sure that enough grains are produced. The farmers get assurance from farmers that we will be able to produce these projections. From livestock, we produce that. From this, we produce that. We need this for animal feed. So the government has to make sure that all these are provided so that throughout the year, there'll be food available for the people. That is the national food security. That's the government has to ensure that, because it's a constitutional right that the citizens should not be denied. Then the other aspect is the household food security, food and nutrition security. And that is critical to every government, because the food can be there in the country, which is the first aspect of the food security and nutrition, food and nutrition security. The government can ensure that. But when it comes to the household, left to the individuals, now the affordability comes in. The affordability comes in there. So the government also have programs that also address the production, the accessibility, the nutrition aspects, and all that. So the government may, in the delivery of this, may bring food into the country, which may not in South Africa, but in other countries, may have not taken the health situation of individuals. So the approach that the government normally adapts to ensure these two facets of food security at times is not acceptable by many people. So there has been a concern that the food has to be certain characteristics, it has to be healthy and nutritious, and it has to be on sustainable basis. There must be stability. That is very, very critical. So the people, in terms of the food sovereignty, are saying, okay, the production, we are concerned with the production, we are concerned with the distribution, we are concerned with the consumption, and even the local system. So the food sovereignty, the difference between the food sovereignty concept and the food security that we know lies in the approach and the politics of it. Like I indicated, the government is compulsory, has to make this available. But what we're making available, what we're allowing to the country, may not be what the individuals may prefer. So they are concerned with that. Also the distribution, the consumption, and the local system. So they feel that the food sovereignty feels that these things have to be democratically done. So there should be a democratic approach to handling hunger and poverty. That is the bottom line. There should be a democratic approach in handling hunger and poverty. So those are the two things that the food sovereignty wants to ensure. Because, and how does this apply in our CSA? That was what I wanted to give yesterday, but I couldn't get a chance. If you look at our CSA modules that we have developed, from the first presentation yesterday and today's presentation, you will see that they present different options of production. Because like yesterday, Dr. Malabani did very well. He said he will introduce participants to inorganic fertilizers and also organic fertilizers, the advantages and disadvantages. So when there is a participant there, he knows which choice is better, which choice is if you are health conscious, which choice that you have to go for. So they present the options. Then in terms of the access, as addressed by our CSA, after completion of the program, if you complete it and complete it well, you take away something that will help you to undertake your production in a better way according to your judgment and what pertains in your situation or the market. So by doing that, you'll be able to improve your production in whatever enterprise system that you choose, be able to improve it. And by improving it, you get more income. And when you get more income, you'll be able to sort out your food security problem, because some may be eating what they are producing, some of them, and also using the extra money to acquire the food needs that the other food needs. Whereas others may not even eat some of what they are producing, but the income they have obtained, will be able to help them to acquire all the other food needs. And also our participants who come to the program, especially one of our stakeholders, the Department of Agriculture and Environment, they are sitting in the national level of agriculture, and they have their grounds to the very, very deep in the small farmers. So them participating through their extension officers, they will get these ideas, this technology, and through that to be transferring them to the small farmers. So in a way, democratically, it's going through there. And the professionals, the individuals who also attend these programs will also benefit in that way. But there are other aspects of the promotion, politics, and other things. The CSA cannot enter into those ones. But in terms of the production, in terms of the access, in terms of knowledge, in terms of the technology that you can use to enhance your production, will be obtaining this particular program. Thank you very much.
Once more, thank you very much, Prof. Ante, much appreciated. I think we'll go to Dr. Malobane. I'm not seeing any hands up for questions. So in the absence of such, over to you, Dr. Malobane, to respond to yesterday's questions. If you can, please switch on your video. Thank you.
Yes, if I can. Okay, thanks. Godfrey, I'm not sure if is my video on? Like
yes,
I said, I
can see you.
Myself. Okay, let me just try to open the questions from yesterday. Okay, thanks colleagues for such a wonderful presentation. I hope attendees have learned one or two things. It's very key for us to take care of the animals like we're taking care of the plants, because all of them leads to food security one way or the other. And we need to do this in a very sustainable way. I like what I saw from yesterday. Somebody said most of the farming systems in most African countries are done in such a way that we behave like we're the last generation on this planet. And if we do not take care of the soil and water, no further generation will ever live. So that was a very good summary of what we want to achieve when we talk about sustainability through this SLP. One question that I got from yesterday is from, it says, one of the objectives of CSA is to manage greenhouse gas emissions. What are some of the tools you recommend for assessing emissions? That is a very good one, because some of the tools that we might talk about, especially when it comes to gas emissions, they are at the science level. That's why to come and recommend such tools to farmers might be a very expensive thing to do. But as research, and also maybe the department could come in on this one, we believe that one tool or one machine, because some of these machines cost a lot of money, over $1 million, because they measure specific gases at a real time. If we can have one maybe in Gauteng that the departments could share across regions, it would be a very good thing to do, because it's not really a need for you to measure this in your farm every day, especially for crop production. But it can be done in intervals so that you can get an idea of what is happening. I know there are colleagues also that I worked with from ARC who are developing some of instruments that it's easy to come in the morning and measure greenhouse gases from your field. But it will be one of those equipments that can be owned by few in a region, or can you help with that? Or can be owned by an office in a region that can help measure these gases in farmers' land over time. One of the question came, says, good morning, what is the adoption rates of climate smart agriculture in South Africa? Are there countries that have advanced in adopting this approach, and how well are they doing? The adoption in South Africa is still very low. I think it's because most farmers are not informed, and most farmers are still skeptic because of the practicality of things. Maybe they just, for now, they're still comfortable with how things are done, but there's a rise in the adoption rate, especially in the KZN. The KZN, they're doing well. Also, there's an organization, the site called No Till. I think it's driving some of these adoption rates aside. And also some farmers come from Bloemfontein, or should I say just Free State. There's some farmers that are coming through because they know there are some of this. One of the other things that it's good in this, some of these farmers is because there's research that is done in their field. There are funders, government funds some of the project, and it goes to their field, and the demonstrations are done in their field with them. And the neighboring farmers are also participating in that practices, so it helps them to adopt. We hope with the aid of the government departments, we can get to a point that we also take these practices to farmers' lands where, let's say in Limpopo, we just use one field and farmers are invited to come and see how the practice do compared to the mainstream agriculture. So that will help a lot. There are farmers which I know they have been practicing CSA, but no-till to be specific, as one of the technique of CSA for over 20 years in Bloemfontein, and they're doing well. They're not complaining, so it's doable. There's success in that. One talks about climate smart agriculture is expensive and not suitable to poor farmers. What help is provided for such farmers? Then is investment/research outputs. To be honest, the CSA is not expensive as some might think it is, because it depends on what you choose within the CSA practices to implement in your field. For example, yesterday I showed a picture of farmers using hand hoes to open lines. You're not tilling the land, you just go and when after maybe it rained, you open the lines and you start planting. That is another way of practicing no-till. You just open the lines with hand hoes. It can be done also with livestock. You just bring a small plow, a plow designed for opening rows, not to plow. It's just, it has thin edges just to open lines where you're going to plant. No plowing, just opening the lines, that's it. We also have what we call, which once you take the module, we go into details and how it works, jack planters. It's a simple technique that a smallholder farmer can just buy. It's not expensive. It includes the seed plus the fertilizer. You just, you don't open lines. You just go where you want to plant. You insert it, it leaves the seed and the fertilizer, then you move to another space until you're done with the field. So that's what smallholder farmers can take advantage of. But like I said, most of the information will come through the training or the modules itself, so that we can go into depth, because for now we are restricted in time. Demonstrations cannot be done. Some of the demonstrations cannot be done online now. So if we are going to do videos of demonstrations, that is something that we can do in later stage. So there are techniques that are not expensive and they are doable. What research opportunities, master's, PhD, postdoc are available for people who wants to focus their research in this climate smart agriculture? That one I think we'll look into. I'm not sure if Prof. Mapoli is, because we're still starting the program now, but we believe this is very key and opportunities will come and we will inform the public and on the available opportunities, because we want to venture into this in a long term. It's supposed to sit in the department with us. We're going to establish, especially when the farm is running, we're going to establish long-term trials where also farmers will be taken through to see this practices when they want. So when that comes, I'm so sure there will be a lot of opportunities. So I suggest the person who asked that be on the look for opportunities like that in future. And we also believe that for now, the government is also funding some of the postgraduate bursaries. We can host you and we take you through this practices if we are still trying to plan from our side. So I believe you can also contact government departments for fundings that are available there. Then there's one that talks about adaptive capacity of farmers to climate change. What techniques could be used effectively in data collection? So in terms of data collection, this is very important. We need to look into data collections. Dr. Samuel tomorrow is going to touch on some of the techniques that can be used to collect data collection in your field. Some of things we believe that you can also learn in crop production is to measure, random measuring of your plant height, because there's a relationship between the growing rate and yield, the biomass accumulation and yield. We can do with a small ruler or a measuring tape just to see if there's a correspond between the planting date and the expected harvesting period. So that can be used, but more of the ways to collect data, Dr. Samuel will touch on that tomorrow. I think the one by Reverend Matlaba, I addressed it yesterday about, I had the tilling the soil, disturbing the structure of the soil, and how am I going to allow air to go through it? So I just want to bring this notion of on tilling. Tilling is done mainly for a few things. One of the things is to create a soft seed bed. We believe that, sometimes because the seed is very fragile, it might take difficult to come out if the soil is very hard. So you're creating a seed bed. It has nothing to do with allowing air and allowing water infiltration. Basically, the collapse of structure over time leads to what we call sealing. You're sealing your pores. Your pores will seal over time. Then you're going to have a challenge with water getting in or water infiltration. And that's why you end up seeing a lot of erosion happening. So they are also, through the module, we will demonstrate how you can enhance water contact with the soil in CA compared to what you will see in the mainstream, because you want to maximize, because one of the key things that we talk about is water use efficiency. You want to make sure that amount of water you're applying gets to the soil, do what you wanted to do with this to enhance production. So we're going to demonstrate that. And with the demonstrations that you're going to see, it's going to also help us to maximize on the little rain that we might have in certain areas at a certain time, and also how to avoid erosion in your land, especially where bare soil, where I know there's a notion that believes that the cleaner your field is, the better it looks, but that's not reality in sustainable production system. So yes, in simple, air and water are have nothing to do with tilling. Tilling is more about creating a smooth or a good seedbed. So the other one says, do you include town planners in this program? Very important to plan together with municipalities in order to close the food security gap. Yes, that's why when Prof. Mapoli mentioned, she mentioned a lot of different organizations that they are target groups, and I believe town planner are very key, especially now in the era where we're talking about urban agriculture. Urban agriculture is very key to sustain food security in urban areas. So yes, town planners are also included, and we believe they should take advantage of this SLP so that they can inform their towns on where to set this urban area, urban agriculture practices, and how to set them so that sustainability can be visible. Another one is about the material, which I believe that it was answered that tomorrow all the materials will be made available to the attendees. There's one that talks about, has CA been proven to be commercially viable? Are there examples of commercially running farming outlets running on the CA model? Yes, this one without doubt. And that's why I said, if more of this commercially running farmers are sitting in the KZN and they belong to an organization called No Till, you can just take some time and Google on No Till. There is a lot of farming that is done under CA model, but the only thing we just want to bring to your attention is No Till is just one technique that falls under CA model. But with the SLP, we're going to cover diverse techniques, which some we believe they're very doable in small scale farmers who do not have a lot of resources and they don't have money to buy big equipments. So to answer that in short, yes, it's there in commercial, but not till could have good data for you to see these big farmers who are doing it. So those are the questions that I had from the chat, and I believe I managed to answer them. If there is any, we still have a few minutes. I don't know, Godfrey, you can allow if the participants, if they still need clarity with regards to this, or they have follow-up questions so we can indulge on them. Thanks.
I must say once more, thank you very much, Dr. Malobane, for the elaboration and taking, going through all those questions. I am going again to open the floor for questions. It is 9 minutes to 11. So while we're still waiting for colleagues to raise their hands and pose questions, tomorrow again, okay, I see we've got Mr. Hendricks and Gata. Over to you, Mr. Hendricks. You can.
Thank you, Doc. Greetings from Malawi. I just want to find out that after the 3 days of this training, what next? Are you also considering other countries that they can also participate for promotion of the initiatives which we are doing now? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Hendricks. Yes, that's a very good question. What next? I think we are going to also elaborate on that question tomorrow on what next. And let me not involve in spoiler alert, so and allow it to be a conclusive message for tomorrow once the training is concluded. And as you are aware that UNISA, it's not only based in South Africa, and Prof. Mapoli now and then in a remarks she touched on Africa and South Africa, Africa and South Africa. Yes, we are going to include this in other African countries because we need, at the end of the day, we need to come with practices that are viable for all Africa, because initially most of us we know in the science domain is that conservation agriculture as one of the CSA practice was brought to us from European nations as the way they do it. And this has not been helpful for many farmers. That's one the other thing that contributes to this slow intake of it. So we are going to go into a space of collaboration, and I'm sure tomorrow is a way forward. And one of the remarks, I'm sure some of my leaders might touch on that, but it will be done in a very systematic way so that all protocols are observed. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Malobane. I think maybe adding on to what you said is that, you know, as a collective as well, we should take into consideration, you know, our contributions and the possibilities. So I'm going to suggest that from this collective, whoever has ideas, suggestions over and above what we have planned going forward, please feel free to share such accordingly. Because you might be sitting on a gold mine of you know, suggestions, and that can, you know, impact positively in as far as the rollout of this initiative is concerned. So everybody, please feel free to make your submissions. We will gladly accept that. And in as far as sharing of information is concerned, I would like to put forth this disclaimer to say, when it comes to you know, protection of personal information, we're very, very cognizant of that. But again, whatever you're sharing with us as a suggestion, as an ID, please do understand the fact that you're doing so solely at your own discretion and under no duress. I take it that you know, we're doing this you know, for the sustainability of our production systems, of our economies as various countries. But again, as a collective, you know, to ensure that the United Nations, the European Union, DFF, UNISA Enterprise, and all the various stakeholders, you know, intentions and objectives are met accordingly. So please do feel free to share the information. And thank you very much for the response, Dr. Malobane. Any other questions from the floor? We have 5 minutes to closure. If not, I shall hand over to Prof. Mapoli to wrap up. But again, tomorrow, 9 o'clock up until 11 o'clock, tomorrow is the final session. So, you know, back in the days, they would say, come one, come all. We'll be talking to technologies as well and the way forward. If there's no questions, Prof. Mapoli, over to you for a wrap up and then closure. Thank you.
Before you give Prof. Mapoli, just one remark. I'm sorry about the Prof. I know that there's been a question about practicality on the ground, and yesterday some of the pictures that I personally presented were done in the engagements with farmers, and so this is one of the assurance that one of the things that you're going to learn from this SLP are some of the engagements we had with smallholder farmers, so that information will also be included. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Malobane. Prof. Mapoli, closing remarks from your side, ma'am. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you so much. And wow, again, today it was a very good session. I think we all enjoyed, and there's been engagement. I like that actually people are engaging. I always see a reminder showing that I should show my face. So I'm glad that we are engaging into this. And this is one of the things that let's take it very serious and start to work on. And I would really appeal to all the attendees that when the course starts, let's start to actually enroll and be able to improve our production. I always say Africa, and if I narrowed it down to South Africa, we have a legacy, which is agriculture. It's something that it's our land. It's here, we have this land. The question is, if we have the land, what are we doing? Are we utilizing it to full capacity? And if we look at the issues of food security, what are we doing with the land that we have to be able to secure the life of our generations to come? And I think it's up to you, farmers, as you are here, organizations, government departments, to say, what are we doing for the next generations to come? So let's take this short learning program and build something for the future of South Africa, for the future of African continent, to be able to grow the agriculture. Agriculture should be actually one of the major production sector in Africa, because we do have the land and our soil is much more compatible in terms of agriculture. If there's something that we are so blessed in, it's we can do both livestock, we can do crops, we can do fruits. We can actually also have medicinal plants with no stress. That is how actually this land that we have give us. So we have you out there as frontliners, the farmers. And I said the opportunity for us to grow better, the opportunity to actually to have sustainable food production, it's in your hands. And the knowledge that you can accumulate every time as you take this kind of SRP, it's what we're gonna use. So I'm taking that what has been said today on how do we improve in terms of crop production, how do we improve in terms of livestock production. Let's go back and reflect on where are we missing. Are we tapping into this technology? Tomorrow it's a day that we will be more talking into technology. And I always said, we can't talk about technology if we haven't prepared our own mind and our own soil first, to be able to say exactly what are we farming? Is it what we are farming on? Is it suitable to the area that we have? And that is where you need that advice from the academics, from the government departments. Or I have this farm. Is it what I'm farming? Is it correct? Is it where I am? Is that correct? Would it help me to produce better and be able to produce for my family and be able to have a business running? And those are the things that you need to think about it. And I like Prof. Ante today, he brought the issues of economics, because when you talk about agriculture, you have to think also about providing like a salary of a family, and it's a business. I mean, a lot of people, when we grow, we thought agriculture is something that we have a backyard on, but it's a business, and that's why you have these businesses glooming out there. But let's now go back and say, what we are producing, is it marketable? If it's not marketable, what is it making it not to be marketable? If it's about breeds, differences, what do we have to go and learn? If it's about crops, do we lack knowledge of understanding the diseases and the pests that are there, or parasites that are there? What is it that we are lacking? And when we bring in these technologies tomorrow, I think those are the discussions that we need to bring it in. Or how do we collect data? And the farmers need to learn how to record in their farms. I can tell you, if there's no records, it's difficult to determine what are your challenges. But when there's records in the farm of what you're experiencing every time, maybe if you lose, we were in the farm last week, Friday, and the owner of the farm said they take about 10 hectares and they planted orange trees. For 2 years, the orange trees were doing well. They were growing and they were happy that soon those orange trees will start to produce. In the 3rd year, they got frost, and then all the orange trees, they just, dried up and died. And you'd understand that that farmer already lost a lot in that hectares. So then the question was, what makes that? Is the climate change issue? Is it the suitability of the soil? How do we assist him to be able to come up to plant a product that will be sustained into that kind of a soil? So let's go back today, digest on what we have learned so far, so that when we tap into technology tomorrow, we're so relevant in what are the technologies and how are we going to use the technologies? Because I always said, we cannot use technology when we don't understand what we are farming with first and the environment that we are in. The moment we understand that, it's easier to tap into technology, and the technology, it enhances production. And it's not all technologies that are expensive. Malovan just said that, or there are easy technologies that everyone here can actually go and tap into. And I always said, farmers can never work alone. If you work as an individual farmer, it becomes so difficult sometimes to produce and become better. When you work in a group with other people, getting the advices and try to work together in a way that in one region, you do have actually one machine that you know it can work for the others around that region. That is what we call sustainable agriculture, because we're working together to making sure that whatever that we are producing is sustainable, and there is a community practice that we're growing together as a community. So I'm going to leave it there. And I said, let's look forward for tomorrow. And I'm so glad for today's engagement. I appreciate everyone that is here. We're looking forward also to work with you underground after this workshop. Thank you so much.
Once more, thank you very much, Prof. Mapoli, much appreciated. That sum up. Colleagues, partners from various entities, thank you very much once more for your time. Looking forward to engaging again tomorrow in a very, fruitful session that will be talking to, the new way of doing things within the 4IR space in as far as technology is concerned. Again, thank you once more. The time, South African time, GT2, it's 4 minutes past 11. The session is adjourned. Cheers. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day further.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye.